Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from SrimadBhagavatam, chapter 7, verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Sakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asamsayam Samagram Mam Yada Jnaseshu Tashrunu. Translation and purport by Vishwa Srila Prabhupada. Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna. The 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, which is capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahmajyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only the stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahmajyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tasrunu, or hear from me. No one can be greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity for progress in Krishna consciousness. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with academic education. In the SrimadBhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shinvadamso kada Krishna punya shavana kirtanaha hridayando hi abhadrani vidunodi suhirsadam nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavada sevaya bhagavadi uttama shloke bhaktir bhavadi naishtaki tada rajastamo bhava kamalo badayasye chedayedera viddam siddham sattve prasidadi evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogadaha bhagavad tattva jnanam mukta sangasya jayade vidyade hridaya grandhis chidyade sarva samshayaha shiyande chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare. To hear about Krishna from the Vedic literatures or hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as the best wishing friend and purifies the devotees who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from Bhagavatam and from devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamsayam Samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can understand the science of Krishna. Thus ended Bhaktivedanta.
Yogam Nyanyan Madasraya Asamsayam Samagram Mam Jatha Ghasasi Tatchina. So Krishna is advising simply by increasing your attachment for Krishna, simply always being absorbed in the thought of Krishna, we can be eligible to understand the whole knowledge, complete knowledge, without any doubt. By our mental speculation, we acquire knowledge, but there are so many doubts. So many doubts. In the 9th chapter, also in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Pratyakham avagavam dharmam. Pratyakham, Krishna consciousness, knowledge is so perfect that Pratyakham avagavam. You can directly perceive how far you are making progress. You don't require to take certificate from others whether you are progressing or not. You will understand yourself. The example is given just like a hungry man is eating. So as he going on eating, he is getting strength and his hunger is being satisfied. So he can understand himself. Nobody requires to certify, now you are satisfied or now. Similarly, bhakti, Krishna consciousness is so perfect that pratyakham avagavam, one can understand directly. Bhakti parishanubhava virakti annatrasya. This is the taste of bhakti marga. Therefore Krishna says asamsam. The theoretical knowledge, experimental knowledge, always remains in doubt. All the scientists, they are not confident. Now there is a theory of uncertainty among the scientists. Whatever knowledge they are making progress, everything is uncertain. Yes, it must be uncertain, because the basic principle is wrong. Therefore it must be uncertain. A condition so as we are, under the condition of the material nature, three modes of material nature, how our knowledge can be perfect? It is not possible. The first defect is, because we are conditioned, we commit mistake, so many. and we become illusion. Just like every knowledge is being based on the illusion that I am this body, material body, which I am not. But the whole world is going on under this conception that I am this body. I am American, I am Indian, I am Brahmana, like that. So, the basic principle is illusion. And there are so many mistakes we commit. And the senses are imperfect. And although my senses are imperfect, I theorize, it may be, it is like this, it is like that. These are all imperfect things. Therefore, whatever knowledge we may make progress, it is samsayam. It remains the uncertainty. But what Krishna says, you can test him with your experimental knowledge. That is Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge, it is not dogma. The statement is there after sufficient experiment. So if we accept Vedic knowledge, we save so much time. We may go on experimenting with our limited power of senses, but that will always remain doubtful. But if we accept Vedic knowledge, apurusha knowledge, then it is perfect. Asangsang samagram. This samagram, this word is very significant. Samagram means complete. To understand Krishna means to understand the whole cosmic manifestation, God, the material nature, the time factor, the living entities, their respective relationship, everything, that is called samagram. Not that a Krishna conscious person does not know about the creation of the material manifestation. He knows by his reason. That will be explained in this chapter, 7th chapter, how this material creation is going on. The modern scientists, they put up creation that there was a chunk and it was burst into pieces, then the planetary system came into existence. But if we inquire where from this chunk comes, that they cannot answer. Therefore, the so-called scientific knowledge always remains in doubt. Darwin's theory, there are so many passages, it may be perhaps, so these things perhaps it may be, that is not certain. Therefore they have now accepted the theory of uncertainty. But here, if we hear from Krishna, then it is perfect knowledge. Samagram. How this material world is created, how these are 5 elements of gross elements come into existence, everything will be explained. Asangsang samagram ma. To understand Krishna means to understand everything. Therefore, tatyam manusyanam sahaseshu koschid jatati siddhaya jatatam api siddhyanam koschid vetimam tatta. We have to understand Krishna in truth. Simply, superficially, if we understand Krishna, that Krishna was born of the father and mother, Devaki and Vasudeva, and he was born in Mathura, and then played with the gopis, and then he taught something on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That is not sufficient knowledge. We should try to understand samagram as far as possible incomplete. Then our devotion, our love for Krishna will be increased. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Siddhanta boliya chitte na karo olos. Iha haite Krishne lage sudhira manas. Siddhanta, conclusive, conclusive understanding. You should try to understand Krishna. Simply by understanding Krishna, life becomes perfect. Janma karma me dibbam ju janati tattva. Takta deham punarjanma nahi. He can become liberated. Therefore, Chaitanya, Kaviraj Goswami recommends that try to understand Krishna in truth. And another place, it is said, Chaitanyer dayar katha karaho vichar. Vichar korile chitte pave chamatkar. It is not blindly accepted, this Krishna consciousness. With considerable deliberation, we take the decision. All the acharyas, they have taken decision. Therefore in the next verse, Krishna says, Jnanam teham sabhijnanam. This knowledge with practical understanding, sabhijnanam. Vijnanam means practical application. We understand Krishna as the Supreme. He is the creator of this cosmic manifestation. He is the Supreme. We are all subordinate. This is Jnanam, and Sabhijnanam, when it is practically applied, that means when you take to devotional service, then it is practically application, practice. Jnanam teham sabhijnanam bhakhyami asesata jajgatani abhuya annaj jnatavam avasishyate. So, when he understands perfectly, complete knowledge, then there is no more anything remains to be understood, everything. Tasmin vijñāte sarvamedam vijñātam bhavat. So, the Bhagavad Gita is not theory, it is knowledge and practically applicable in life, savijñā. And if we try to understand Krishna in perfect order, then there is nothing remains to be understood. Everything becomes revealed. This knowledge becomes revealed. Naham prakasa sarvasya jugumaya samad. Revealed. Athapite deva padam mujadnayam prasadalisana grihita. So we have to receive this knowledge submissively. The Lord Brahma recommends that jnani prayasam mudapasa namanta eva. Namanta. We must be submissive. The whole thing depends. Spiritual knowledge. Tad vijnanartham sa gurumeva vigacche samitpani sotriyam brahmani. Tad vidhi pranipate no pariprasne no sivaya. So, this knowledge, this process of knowledge is received by submissive mode, jnane prayasa, udapas. One has to give up the false, prestigious position that I can understand God and everything by my speculative, experimental knowledge. This is called jnane prayasa. Jnane prayasam mudavasa namantaiva. One should be submissive. Sanmukharitanga bhavadiya varta. And try to hear the message of the Lord from Sanmukharitang, sadhu, devotees. Sanmukh, not professional. Sri Sanatana Goswami has strictly forbidden Avaishnava mukhadgina puta hari kathamritam savanam na kartavam. Avaishnava, those who are not practically Vaishnava, devotee in practical life, professional person, there is no use. Avaishnava, there must be heart and soul Vaishnava. Avaishnava mukhadginam puto harikathamritam. Harikatha, the words about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, certainly that is Amritam. But still, it should not be heard from a person who is not a devotee. Okay. So, Avaishnava mukhadgina puta hari kathamritam savanamna kartabam. And it is forbidden, don't hear. Why? Hari kathamrita, Krishna katha, the message of God, the words of God, Bhagavad Gita, he may be anything, but the katha is the same, so what is the harm to hear from a Vaishnava? Sanatana Goswami gives the example, Sarpachishta payojatha. Sarpachishta payojatha. Sarpachishta, just like milk, everyone knows, a very nice food, most nutritious food. But if it is touched by the leap of a serpent, and immediately spoiled. Immediately. Another place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mayavadi bhasya sunile hoye sarvanash. If we hear Mayavadi bhasya, commentaries by the Mayavadis, those who do not accept the personality of God, they are called Mayavadi. Mayavadi means they see everything Maya, even Krishna is Maya. That is called Mayavadi. The Mayavadi philosophy is that when Krishna comes, he comes with a material body. That is called Mayavadi. God is impersonal. When he comes, he takes a form. He takes the form of this matter. This is Mayavadi. There are so many faulty statements of the Mayavadi. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has says, Mayavadi hoy Krishna aparadi. They are offenders. Offenders. Therefore, Mayavadi bhasya sunile hoy sadbana. One becomes doomed by hearing the Mayavadi commentary. This is so much condemned. So, actually, by the grace of Krishna, we can understand that the absolute truth is ultimately the Supreme Person. But we cannot accommodate within our teeny brain how the Supreme Absolute Truth can be a person. That is the difficulty. That is the difficulty of Mayavad philosophy. That is the Kupamandukonna. That because I am a person, I am so much limited. How a person can be unlimited? And that is the difficulty for them. But therefore, to remove this difficulty, one has to surrender. Without surrendering, it is not possible to understand. Therefore, Krishna demands surrender. Then you will understand. Naham prakasa sarvasya yuga maya samabdita. By challenging, you cannot understand actually what is Krishna. One has to become submissive. So jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshami aseshata jasgatya na iha bhuya annaj jnatavam avasishyate. Then Krishna says, Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschit jatati siddha. Jatatam api siddhanam kaschin mang vetti tatam. Manusyanam sahasreshu. Generally, all human society, especially at the present moment, Nobody cares for perfection of life. They do not know what is perfection of life. Just like animals, they do not know what is perfection of life. They think perfection of life to gratify the senses. We have got these senses, let us, because they have no idea that there is life after death. Therefore, their only proposition is, now we have got this life and we have got these senses, let us enjoy it to the fullest extent. This is their perfection. But actually that is not perfection. Perfection means, self-realization means to know that aham brahmasmi, I am not this matter, I am spirit soul. To understand this. Brahma bhuta prasanna. So therefore, mostly people are engaged in the animal propensities of life. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunancha. Eating, sleeping, sex life and defense. They are busy. But these things are visible in the animal life also. Then what is the special significance of the human life? Human life means athato brahma jigyasa. The human being should be inquisitive to understand Brahma. That is the special significance of human life.